Finishing a crochet project is always satisfying, but sometimes it can feel like something's missing, and that something is often a border. The right border can completely transform your project, whether it's a blanket, a scarf, or even a tapestry for your wall. In this video, I'm going to share with you my 5 favorite borders that you can add to your next crochet project to give it that polished, finished look. And these are going to work on absolutely any project. Now, if you've been around my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I'm a big colorwork fan. I love working with big, bold graphic designs, and because of that, I tend to stick to really simple stitches like single crochet or half double crochet. But that means I don't get to experiment much with texture. So I decided to push myself out of my comfort zone with the help of today's sponsor, Craftsy. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative, and I took the fun and fantastic textured crochet stitches class to create the swatches you'll see in this video. And honestly, it was such a refreshing change of pace. The class made it really easy to follow along, and I learned a few techniques I hadn't ever tried before. Craftsy have a massive library of classes in everything from crochet and knitting to baking, quilting, sewing, and so much more. If you love learning at your own pace with friendly, knowledgeable instructors, you'll definitely find something that sparks your creativity. It's not just the variety of topics that make Craftsy stand out. It's how easy it is to stay inspired. There's always something new being added, whether it's a fresh class on a technique you've never tried, or a live tutorial where you can watch and learn in real time. If you're curious and want to give it a try, Craftsy have an amazing offer for you. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen get a full year of premium membership for the incredible price of $1.49, which is less than a ball of yarn. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and join Craftsy today. Before adding any of the decorative borders to my swatches, I like to start with a base round of single crochet. You can see I've already done that with these swatches here. And the reason we want to do that is to neaten up the edges and give us a clean, even foundation to work the border into. Most of the time, I like to use the same color as the swatch for this round so it blends in. And then we can switch to a contrasting color for the main border. But that part is totally up to you. You can get creative with it depending on the look that you're going for. So let's just really quickly look at how we're going to do this single crochet border. So to start your single crochet border, make sure that the right side of your swatch is facing you. If you've just finished your last row and the yarn is still attached, you can use that. Just chain 1 to begin a new round. And if you're on the wrong side currently, make sure you turn your work so that the right side is facing you. But if you're like me and you don't have yarn attached, we're just going to join it in the top right-hand corner up here. So to do that, I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. And then insert your hook into the very first stitch in the top right-hand corner and complete a single crochet. And then we're going to work all the way across the top of here, just placing 1 single crochet into each stitch. Now, of course, if your swatch is done with a different stitch, so say, for example, maybe it's moss stitch and you've got a chain space every other stitch, you'd also work into each of those chain spaces as well. You just want to work nice and evenly across the top until you get to the very last stitch. And when we get to the end of the row, we need to turn this corner. And to do that, we need to put 3 single crochets into this very last stitch. So we'll do 1, 2, and then 3. And that has allowed us to turn that corner and continue working down the edge of our work here. Now with my swatch, I was working mostly in single crochet. And that means that when I'm working down here, I can just put 1 stitch into the end of each row, and that's going to be nice and even. But if you're working with a different stitch, a taller stitch, for example, like double crochet, you might need to put more than 1 stitch per row. So if we take a look at one of my other swatches, this one, for example, has some double crochet stitches, and I had to put 2 single crochets into some of the rows. But the important thing here is not necessarily the number of stitches per row, it's that your work is nice and even. You want to check that as you're working, it's not puckering up or becoming wavy, that it is lying nice and flat like this. But as I said, if you've got a swatch like mine, which is mostly worked in a single crochet, it's nice and easy. We can just put 1 single crochet in the end of each row. And we're going to work all the way down this side until we get to the foundation chain down here. And when we get to the end of that edge, it's time to turn the corner. But before we do that, make sure you lie your piece out flat and make sure that this edge is staying nice and flat like that and that it isn't puckering up. If it is, don't worry, just rip out your stitches and try again. Add some more stitches or fewer stitches until you get a nice even edge like this. And when you're happy, we can turn this corner. So we're just going to find the very first foundation chain here, and we're going to work 3 single crochets into there, just like we did with the previous corner. So 1, 2, and 3. And just as we did before at the top here, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of our foundation chains until we get to this last one here. And again, we'll place 3 single crochets into the last one. Then we'll turn our work around like this and work into the edge of these rows, just like we did over here. So you can go ahead and work all the way across here, work into this corner here, and then work down this edge here. And I'll meet you at the end of this edge where I'll show you how we're going to finish things off. And when you've worked all the way around your square, it should look something like this. Now, when we started our border, we began in this corner up here, and we only put 1 single crochet in this corner, but as you know, we normally put 3 single crochets in the corner. So to finish this off, we're just going to put 2 more single crochets into that same stitch where we worked our first single crochet. So that is right there. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then we're just going to slip stitch with that first stitch there. And then we can cut our yarn and fasten off. Or if you want to do the next part of the border in the same color, you can of course keep it attached. But I'm going to be using a contrasting color. So I'm going to fasten off and weave in that end before I get started with the next step. The first border we're going to do is the crab stitch, which is a nice and easy stitch. It's also known as the reverse single crochet. And as that name suggests, we'll actually be working in reverse. So when we attach our yarn up here, rather than working this way around the square, we're going to be working this way around the square. And this border is a nice and straightforward one. It's just 1 round, and we're basically just working single crochets. So to get started, we're just going to pop a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to attach our yarn somewhere. It really doesn't matter where. You can start in a corner, up at the top here, wherever you want. And I'm going to insert my hook into a stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch, and then pull through the loop on our hook. So our yarn is now attached, and we can pop that tail in the back so it's out of the way. And as I said, this stitch is called the reverse single crochet or the crab stitch. And the reason it's called a reverse single crochet is because you're going to be doing all of the same steps as a normal single crochet. So just as we have done with this foundation single crochet border that we've already added, we're going to be doing the exact same steps, but rather than working into the next stitch along on our left, we're going to be working into the stitch on our right. So to get started, what I would do is hold on to this loop that is on your hook, because this might be a little bit fiddly and you might find that that slips off if you're not careful. And we're going to find the first stitch on the right, which is this one here, and insert into it just like this. Just make sure we hold that tail out of the way so we're not picking that up. And then we're going to grab our working yarn and pull it through the stitch just as we do with a single crochet. So you've now got 2 loops on your hook, and they are a little bit twisted, so don't worry about that. That's exactly how they're supposed to be. We're then going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. And that is your first reverse single crochet done. And we're just going to continue working along the border, so finding the next single crochet along. So this one right here, and we're going to work into that. So insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull it up, yarn over, and pull through 2. And we're just going to continue working like this into every single stitch around. We're not going to do anything special in the corners or anything like that, just one of these stitches into each stitch that we've already done in our foundation. So as I said, this is nice and straightforward. It can feel a little bit fiddly working backwards like this. It's a little bit unusual, but once you get into the rhythm, you'll find that you really fly around this border, and this is a really quick one to add. And it looks really cool. As you can see, it really neatens up all of the edges of your project and just makes it look so tidy. And when we make it to the end of the round, we want to make sure we're working into this last stitch where we join the yarn. So not where we put our first reverse single crochet, just where we join the yarn. So we're going to pop 1 more stitch in there. And then we want to work a slip stitch into this first stitch that we worked into. So not the reverse single crochet, but the stitch that one is worked into down here. We're just going to work a slip stitch. So insert our hook, yarn over, and pull through the stitch and through the loop on your hook, which can be a little bit fiddly. And once you've done that, you can cut the yarn and fasten off. And that is your crab stitch border all finished. So this border is really quick and easy to add to any project, and it looks really neat and tidy. It really is one of my favorite borders to add to my projects. The next border we're going to be looking at is the moss stitch or the linen stitch, whichever name you prefer. And for this border, I'm going to be using two different colors. So I'm going to alternate between cream and purple. You can, of course, use one color or more than two colors. That's completely up to you. But we're going to start with a slip knot on the hook. And we're going to start by joining our yarn in one of the corners. It doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to start up here. And we want to find that corner stitch, which is right here. And we're going to insert our hook into that stitch. Then yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both of that loops, and we have just completed a single crochet. And for this pattern, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be chaining one, then we're going to skip the next single crochet, and we're going to work into the one after it. So let's do a chain one, skip the next stitch, and then work into the stitch after it, just making one single crochet into there. And we're going to repeat that pattern. We're going to chain one, skip the next stitch, work into the stitch after it, working one single crochet into there. So this is a nice, easy, repetitive pattern. Chain one, skip a stitch, single crochet. So go ahead and work all the way across the first row and meet me at the next corner where I'll show you how we're going to tackle that. So I've worked all the way across the top edge, and your work should be looking like this. And I've now got one stitch left before the corner, which of course is going to be our stitch that we skip. And then we've got the corner stitch right here. So make sure you've just finished a chain one, and then we're going to work our first single crochet into that corner stitch, just like so. And then we're going to chain two. So 1, 2, and then we're going to work a single crochet into that same stitch that we've just worked into. So work back into that stitch, just making one more single crochet in there. And then we're going to continue in the same pattern we've been doing previously. So we're going to chain one, skip the next stitch, single crochet into the stitch after it. And of course, we're just going to repeat this all the way down the side. And then when we get to the next corner, we're going to tackle that in exactly the same way. So you'll work one single crochet into it, chain two, and then work another single crochet into it. So you can now go ahead and work all the way around the rest of your project until we get back to where we started. And I will meet you there and I'll show you how we're going to finish off this round. So I've now worked all the way around my project. I've now got one stitch left unworked, and then we've got this corner stitch where we started. And as you know, with the previous corner stitches, we've worked one single crochet, two chains, and another single crochet. But when we started this corner, we only did one single crochet, so we need to finish off that corner. So to do that, we're going to work one single crochet into that same space. Then we will chain two, and then we're just going to slip stitch with the top of that first stitch to join. And then we're going to fasten off because the next round is going to be done with a different color. So just cut the yarn, leaving a tail, and fasten off. So this is what your first round should be looking like. And we're going to get started on round two. We're going to start things off in the same way we did with the first round. We're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And then we're going to find one of the corners. You can go in the corner that we just left or one of the other corners. It really doesn't matter. And we're going to start by joining the yarn with a single crochet. So insert your hook into that chain space. So where we have that chain two there, you want to insert your hook under that chain two and complete a single crochet. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. And we're going to be working in the exact same pattern we did on the first round. So we'll start with a chain one, and then we're going to skip the single crochet stitch and we're going to work under the chain. So we're going to work into that chain space just there. So insert your hook under the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through two. And then chain one. And again, we'll skip the single crochet and work into the chain. And we'll do that all the way along until we get to that corner chain two space. So I'll meet you there and I'll show you how we're going to work that. So I've just worked into the last chain space before our corner where we've got our chain two space. And we're just going to work this in the exact same way we worked the corners in the previous round. So we'll single crochet into that chain space, chain two, and then single crochet back into that chain space. So nice and straightforward. And then of course, as we work down this side, we'll continue in our single crochet into the chain space, chain one, and then single crochet into the next chain space pattern. So you can now go ahead and work all the way around your project until we get back to the start, and I'll meet you there and show you how to finish things off. Once you've worked all the way around your project and you've just worked your last single crochet into the last chain space and chained one, we're going to finish off this corner in the same way that we did with round one. So we'll just work a single crochet into that chain space where we started, chain two, and then we will join with that first single crochet by doing a slip stitch. And then, of course, we're going to fasten off this collar. And to continue working, all you would do is repeat round two until your border is as wide as you want it to be. And that's the great thing about this border. You can completely customize how wide it is, and you can use as many colors as you want. I'm only using two here. I think that gives a really nice effect alternating between the two, but you can have as many colors as you want. And I think it's a really great way to add a little bit of color to an otherwise quite plain project. We're now going to do the camel stitch border. And just like with the moss stitch border, this one is one where you can repeat the rounds as many times as you want to make the border as wide as you want. To get started on this border, we're going to begin with a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to do a standing half double crochet. So to do that, we're going to wrap our yarn around our hook to make a yarn over. And then we're going to find the corner stitch, any of the corner stitches, it doesn't matter which one. So we've got these 3 single crochets into the corner. We're going to find the middle one right here. And we're going to insert our hook into there and then yarn over and pull up a loop. And then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook to complete the standing half double crochet. And then we're just going to work half double crochets into each stitch until we get to the next corner. So nice and straightforward this first row, just working half double crochets into each stitch. So we've worked our half double crochets all the way across that first edge. And in this corner stitch here, we're going to do something nice and straightforward. We're going to do 1 half double crochet, then chain 2, 1, 2, and then half double crochet back into that same stitch. And then, of course, we're going to work down this next edge, working half double crochets into each stitch. When you get to the corner, you'll do your half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet, and you'll continue working all the way around your project until you get back to where we started. And I will meet you there and I'll show you how we're going to end this round and move on to round 2. Once we've worked a half double crochet into every stitch around, we need to finish things off in this corner. So as you know, with every other corner, we've had a half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet in that corner. But in this first one where we started, we only put 1 half double crochet in there. So we're going to finish things off by doing 1 half double crochet into that same space, chain 2, and then slip stitch with the top of that stitch to join the round. And then for round 2, we're going to start with a chain 2, and then we're going to work into this chain 2 space, which is kind of behind us, but don't worry about that. So we're going to yarn over, work into that chain 2 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 3. So you've just got your first half double crochet in that chain space. And now we're going to start with the camel stitch. And the important thing to note about the camel stitch is that we're going to be working into the 3rd loop. So when we look at the top of our stitch here, we've got this loop here, which is our front loop. We've got this loop here, which is the back loop. But if you turn your work towards you, you also have another loop right here, which is the 3rd loop. And that is the loop that we're going to be working into for this round. And we're going to be working half double crochets into it. So just yarn over, insert into that 3rd loop of the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And you can see that forces the front loop and the back loop to the front of the work. And this is going to create quite a cool ribbing effect. So we're going to find the next stitch along, turn our work towards us, find that 3rd loop, and half double crochet into it. And we'll do this all the way along this edge until we get to the corner where we've got our chain 2 space. And I will meet you there and show you what we're going to do with that. Once you've worked all the way across this edge, working into each stitch, we get to our chain 2 space. And in here, we're just going to work a normal half double crochet into the chain 2 space, chain 2, and then work another half double crochet into that chain space. And then we'll continue as normal, working into the 3rd loop of each stitch, working 1 single crochet into each one. And of course, you're just going to work all the way around this project, working one half double crochet into the third loop of each stitch, and then in the corners you'll just work a normal half double crochet, chain 2, and then another half double crochet. So you can go ahead and work all the way around until you get back to the beginning, and I will meet you there and show you how to finish off the round. Once you've worked into your last stitch of the round, we need to finish off our corner. So for that, we just need to pop a half double crochet into this chain space that we've already worked into at the beginning of the round, and then chain 2, and then we'll just slip stitch with that first half double crochet to join. And now you can continue working at round 2 until the border is the width that you want it to be. And I'm actually just going to end mine here. I just want these 2 rounds that we've already done. But we need to finish off with a round of slip stitches. And what that's going to do is that's going to push this last round that we've just done forward so that these stitches are a bit closer together. Because otherwise they'll just sort of sit backwards like this, but we want to push them forwards so that they match this first round here. So go ahead and work as many rounds of row 2 as you want. And then we're going to work this final round. So we're going to start with a chain 1. And then again, we're going to work backwards into this chain space over here. And we're just going to work a slip stitch into there. And we're going to be working slip stitches all the way around. And we're going to be working into the third loop as we have been done previously. So just find the third loop on your first stitch and slip stitch into there. And then just continue working a slip stitch into every single stitch until you get to the corner, and I will show you what we do there in just a moment. And when you get to the end of that edge and we've got our chain 2 space to work into, we're going to pop one slip stitch in there, chain 2, and then pop another slip stitch in there. And I'm sure you can figure out what we're going to do for the rest of the round. We're going to slip stitch into the third loop of each stitch along each row, and then work a slip stitch, chain 2, slip stitch into each corner. And I'll meet you at the end of the round where we'll finish things off. And once we've worked all the way around this project and we're back at our first corner, all we're going to do to finish off this corner is slip stitch into the chain space, chain 2, and then slip stitch into the top of the first slip stitch of the round. And when you're finished, you're left with this super neat ribbing-like texture on your border, which gives any project a really polished finish. So next up, we're going to take a look at the Picot border. And the really fun thing about this one is that it is easy to customize. So you can make your Picot stitches bigger or smaller than what I'm doing. And you can also decide how far apart they'll be in the border depending on the look you're going for with your project. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to attach our yarn in the top right-hand corner. So in the corner here, we've got the 3 stitches that we did into the corner. And we want to do it into the last one just here. So we're going to insert our hook into there. Yarn over and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook to do a single crochet. Now we're going to work into the next stitch here, and we're going to do a single crochet into there as well. And then we're going to do our first Picot stitch. So for this, we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And as I mentioned earlier, you can customize the size of your Picot stitch. So if you wanted to do a smaller one, you could just chain 2, or if you wanted to do a larger one, you could chain 4 or 5. But once you've finished your chain, you're going to find the first chain just at the bottom here, and you are going to slip stitch into that chain. So insert your hook into there, yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And that is your Picot stitch done. Now we're going to find the next stitch across and single crochet into there. And then single crochet into the next stitch as well. And this is where I'm going to do my next Picot stitch. As I said before, you can spread yours out more than this. So you could do yours every 2 stitches, every 3 stitches, every 4 stitches. It's totally up to you what you want to do. But I'm going to chain 3 again. And you could also alternate the size of the Picot. So you could do a smaller one here and then a bigger one here and then the next one smaller. But just to keep things simple, I'm going to keep mine all the same size. So I've done my chain 3, and then we're going to slip stitch into the first chain. And that's the Picot stitch done. And then we're just going to continue working in this pattern. So single crochet into the next stitch. single crochet into the stitch after that, and then do a picot stitch. And you can continue working in this pattern or whatever pattern you've decided to go for all the way across this top edge and meet me in the corner over here. And when you've worked across your first edge and you get to your corner, we're actually just going to continue working in the pattern. We're not going to do anything special in the corner like we have been doing for the previous stitches. We're just going to continue doing 2 single crochets followed by the picot stitch or whatever pattern you're working in. So this really is quite straightforward. We're not doing anything special at all in the corners. You can just continue working in your pattern all the way around your border. And then when you've worked all the way around your square and you've worked into every single stitch in that single crochet border, you can finish off your round by slip stitching with that first single crochet that we did and then fasten off. And while all the borders are going to benefit from some blocking, this one will in particular, you can pop a pin in each of your picot stitches to make sure they really pop out and look really neat. And the very last border we're going to look at is the puff stitch border. And this is a really fun one because you get these nice big puff stitches all the way around the edge. And I think it looks really cool. And to get started, we're going to begin with a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to join in one of the corner stitches. So where we've got our 3 single crochets in the corner, we'll just find the middle stitch. And we're just going to slip stitch to join and then chain 2. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to skip the next stitch and work into the stitch after it, which is this one here. And we're going to do a half double crochet. So insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And now we're going to do 3 half double crochets together into this space here that we've just created. So this is going to look like this. Yarn over, insert your hook into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop. You've got 3 loops on your hook now. Yarn over again, insert back into that same space. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 5 loops on your hook now. And we're going to do it one more time. Yarn over, insert into that same space. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You should now have 7 loops on your hook. And you're just going to yarn over and pull through all 7 of those loops. And you might need to wiggle your hook a bit to get them all the way through. But you're left with a puff stitch that looks like this. Then we're going to chain 1 and we'll skip the next stitch and half double crochet into the stitch after it. And then we'll do that half double crochet 3 together into this space again. So just as a reminder, yarn over, insert into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, insert into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then one more time, yarn over, insert into that space, yarn over, pull up a loop. And now with 7 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then to finish it off, just chain 1. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. So skip a stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet 3 together into that space, and then chain 1. And you can actually work this all the way around your project. You don't need to do anything special in the corner because this stitch is quite forgiving, just like the picot stitch that we did previously. So it's really straightforward once you get a hang of this puff stitch, which can feel a bit fiddly to begin with. But don't worry, once you get going, you'll really fall into the rhythm with this stitch. And it's completely worth learning to do because it's a really fun one. So I've now worked all the way around my border. I've got 1 stitch left unworked, and then after that we've got where we joined at the beginning. However, you might have a different stitch count to me, and in which case you might have just worked into this stitch here, and then you've got no stitches left, and you've just got the chain 2 where we started here. If that's the case, you can go ahead and just slip stitch with the top of that chain 2 to finish. But if, like me, you've got 1 stitch left unworked, we can actually work another puff stitch into here. So I'm going to work a half double crochet into that same stitch that we started in at the beginning of the round. And then I'll do a half double crochet 3 together to do my puff stitch. And then chain 1, and then just slip stitch either into the chain or into the top of the half double crochet. It doesn't really matter. And that's just going to finish the round for us. And then we can fess it off and we are all done with that border. And I absolutely love the texture that we get with this border. And it sort of looks like you've got these beads all the way around the edge of your work, which I think just looks really interesting. So I hope you've enjoyed learning these 5 border stitches. And if you want more tutorials like this one, make sure you hit subscribe. And don't forget to check out more from Craftsy. They have so much to offer in the way of crochet tutorials, but also lots of other arts and crafts and different hobbies that you can try out. Thanks for watching.